Dele Farotimi has also replied NBC. Remember, the National Broadcasting Commission came out and sent a letter to Arise TV where they mentioned that when they had guests Dele Farotimi and Kenneth Okonkwo, that they said also. Anyway, I will drop the link in the description section. And that one. So Kenneth Okonkwo had actually replied them. He wrote his own letter and warned the DG of the National Broadcasting Commission. But apparently what is being reported right now is the law firm that Mr. Dele Farotimi had contracted, according to what is being reported. His solicitors has also sent in a letter to the DG. So let me read that letter out there for you. I like this piano. Honestly, that DG is such a useless organization, and it really needs to be taken on. All of these things that they think they can do, now they are trying to have a social media bill and come after what people say on social media. So if I say something on social media now, somebody will now come and say, oh, that what I've said, they're going to find me, they're going to arrest me. No, Allah. Is it not prison? Who they fear that prison itself? All of us, maybe go there now. Maybe now there we go start the revolution, because the people who are there outside, they are more in prison than the people who are actually in prison. So it says the Director General, Nigeria Broadcasting Commission, number 20 Ibrahim Taiwo Street, Asokoro District, PO Box 5747, Garki, Abuja, Nigeria. Dear Sir, response to allegation of unguarded remarks on Arise Television's The Morning Show on 5th October 2023. The letter is dated 11th October 2023. It says, we act as solicitors to Dele Farotimi, our client. We write in requests. What am I even reading? Something is not very clear, so I'm trying to read it very well. Okay. We write in respect of the letter dated 6th October 2023 with reference number MBC DGABV AR Arise 10/23 from your office, addressed to the Chief Executive Officer of Arise Global Media Limited, the operators of Arise TV. This letter addresses comments made by our client on the Arise TV program, The Morning Show, on 5th October 2023. The second paragraph of the letter states as follows. For the benefit of doubt, on October 5, 2023, during the program, The Morning Show, anchored by Reuben Abati, Rufai Hussaini, and Ayo Meru Esse, featured Oladotu Hassan and Dele Farotimi as guests. The program contained unguarded incendiary remarks by Dele Farotimi against the legislature, executive, judiciary, and Mr. President, definitely not my president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Dele Farotimi, while responding to Dr. Reuben Abati's question, remarked that the person who holds the highest office of the land is a career criminal. The assertions contained, that's okay, so I forgot to say close the quotation mark, right? Start and close the quotation mark. So the letter continues as so. It said the assertion contained in the letter are untrue and were not made by our client. For clarity, we have transcribed what our client said below. And this is what he says. He said, when your legislators are corrupt, you should be worried. If your executives are peopled by crooks, you should be afraid. When the judiciary stops being courts of law, the people should be alarmed. Nigerian courts over the past years have shown very clearly that we have very good reasons to be worried about the capacity to deliver justice or to give equity. However, I do know that within the inherent jurisdiction of that court, it has the powers if it so desires and if it finds the will to hear evidence that would suggest that the person who is sat in the highest office of the land is a career criminal. Emphasis added. That was actually
Dr. Abati,
what he had said.
when your
I
legislators
also,
are corrupt, you should be worried.
That was
If
exactly
your executive
what he had
peopled
said.
by crooks, you should
Let
be
me go
afraid.
back now and find,
Or when the
other
judiciary stops being
Sometimes
court
this
of
thing
law,
get
the people should be
messy.
alarmed. Nigerian courts over the
Oh my
past few
goodness,
years have shown very clearly that we have good reasons to be
I'm
worried
not gonna edit this thing.
about the
So I was
capacity to
reading the
deliver
letters, and now the
justice
letters.
or to give equity.
Where's the second
However,
part of it?
I do know that within
Me has also replied NBC. So let's see how.
to hear evidence that would suggest that the person who is sat in the highest office of the land is a career criminal. That is entirely up to the Supreme Court. It is up to the court to decide whether it is capable of saving.
A review of the above statement will show that our client did not cast aspersions on anyone, and the statement was never intended to be incendiary. The use of when and if in the opening sentences on the legislature, executive, and judiciary, respectively, shows that the sentences were conditional sentences and made no direct imputations. And honestly, because even for that was exactly what it was. He didn't say, "Oh, Nigerian judiciary." Me, I'll probably go there and even say that the Nigerian judiciary are this or whatever. You know, he was like, if and so why, you know, when they say when the guilty, even when they don't say anything, the guilty are always afraid. That's just the thing. Even and when they say old people, when they talk about old bones, old people get angry. I think there's a proverb. I don't know which tribe has that kind of proverb or something like that. Because anyway, let me go back. On the second part of the allegations, our client spoke to the fact copiously available in the public space by stating that the court has inherent jurisdiction to hear evidence that would suggest exactly that the person seated in the highest office of the land is a career criminal and not that the person is a criminal. The use of the word suggest clearly speaks on how these facts and evidence may be interpreted and cannot be said to be a direct imputation. While our client is always willing to stand by his words and own them, our client finds it disheartening that his words have been deliberately misrepresented for reasons unknown to him. Therefore, our client deems it necessary to correct this misrepresentation for record purposes. Please note that our client considers your actions a deliberate attempt to curtail his freedom of speech, clearly guaranteed by the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, and to influence those who may not have had the ability of listening to our client's interview. Our client also deems this letter, which is widely accessible on the internet, as defamatory. Consequently, our client demands that you promptly retract the letter and issue a written apology to him for this act of defamation within 7 days of receiving this letter. Should you fail to retract the letter and issue the written apology, our client shall be compelled to take such legal actions as may be necessary to enforce his rights. That's how we are. Dele Farotimi has also replied NBC. So let's see how everything will play out.
Opinion that it is not a Nigerian thing to forge documents. Regardless of what the CSU registrar might have to say on the subject, it is not a Nigerian thing. The CSU was unambiguous in making clear that the diploma submitted to INEC does not emanate from it. That, I think, is about the only thing of legal consequence that concerns me as far as I'm concerned. But when you now look to the broader issue of honesty, integrity, the image of the country, it doesn't look good. But I will refrain from speaking further to the issue. Regardless of what pundits might care to say about it, this does not emanate from the Labour Party or Mr. Gregory Peter Obi. This is solely an issue raised by Vice President Atiku, and it is for all of us to look beyond the politics and deal with the substance. Has this man forged a document? That answer has been answered. That question has been answered on hold, and I'll leave it at that unless I need to speak further on the subject.
Okay, Dr. Hassan, what do you think?
Well, I believe it's an eggshell rule. The fact speaks for itself from the document and from the inquiry at the CSU. And I beg to disagree in all terms that Asiwaju actually graduated from the Chicago State University in contravention and against former Vice President Atiku, the self-destructive voyage of shame, in view of the fact that, yes, it's crystal clear that Asiwaju presented a genuine certificate and graduated from the university, and we must not be too overzealous to condemn or just name the dog a bad name on the premise of political affiliation to either Labour Party, which I know my brother and friend, Mr. Dele Farotimi, might be on that same page, while looking at their effect is, did Asiwaju graduated? Yes, he graduated from university with honors. How then do you now prove a case that is prima facie evidence that you lay before the school? And their process, American laws and system of education is different from Nigeria. We cannot holistically view for the fact that the privileged document which Atiku sought for was released and granted, and that on its own ended the whole inquiry. Every other thing is just a voyage of an headless chicken, which will not bring home any other thing than the crudity, the hatred, and political gymnastics just to create and to encourage a media mob attack on the person of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which I believe, as the president of Yoruba Council Worldwide, Asiwaju is an Omoluabi par excellence. So, except there are other things I want to hear on this table. But as far as I believe, we run an acquisitorial system of government, legal system. You cannot, without proper investigation and lay before the court of competent jurisdiction, without prejudicing the Supreme Court, which I definitely know is going to end up in the same way, because no substance. The candidate had 21 days to file all their petitions, and all this chase of evidence, aftermath of to substantiate their case is just fruitless. So I believe strongly that when they had 14 days opening to present any query from INEC, no one raised all this. So it is just the same Enunubini Okaimowawu syndrome. That is, no matter how you might really look to satisfy human or mankind, they will definitely still want to bring down that hatred syndrome to the four heights of the world, which is really unfortunate.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hassan. I'll come to you, Mr. Farotimi, for this question, and then I have a question for Mr. Hassan. For Mr. Farotimi, I don't know if you've read the details of the deposition. I know I'm not sure if the certified true copy is out, but there have been copies of what transpired. A raw copy has been released. And one of the things Mr. Caleb Westberg had said on that oath was that even though he did attest to the fact that President Tinubu graduated from CSU, the certificate presented was not issued by CSU. I'd like you to speak on that and the implications, potential implications of that. And the second aspect is to respond to a comment made by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Toga, in an interview yesterday, where he said, this matter is trivial. It's a trivial matter and we should, I want to take his, he said, the issues surrounding the president's academic qualifications are frivolous. The administration cannot waste its time on trivial matters. Do you agree with him? Are they frivolous, and are these trivial matters that ought to be ignored? And then for Mr. Hassan, because you mentioned the fact that as president of Yoruba Council, he's an Omoluabi, in the event that it is proven, or there are evidences to prove that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu forged the certificate, as an Omoluabi, would you suggest, in the event that it is true, that he resigns?
Well,
let Mr. Farotimi respond. Please.
Well, first thing first, it was correct to decree the forgery by Mr. Tinubu as frivolous. When you consider all the other things that are confronting Nigeria, it is particularly trivial to contemplate that the president, quote and unquote, of the country, of the most populous black country in the world, actually forged his certificate. Now, to move beyond that, because it is very easy to try to run away from the trivialities that the Tinubu administration has more or less forced on us. But if you dig deeper in the body of the same deposition, you begin to address the fact again that there are so many lies undergirding even the forged certificate itself, too many questions waiting to be answered. People might begin to talk about how evidence does not count again at this point. But again, it's not like evidence has ever mattered in our space, because even the judiciary have found ways to make what matters not matter any longer. But there is something that I must respond to, even though it wasn't asked of me directly. And this is this idea that somebody is an Omoluabi simply because the person is a Yoruba person. An Omoluabi comes with qualification. It comes with qualification of integrity, of honesty, of pedigree, of history. That is why we have Oriki in Yoruba land. A person would be praised to his progeny. You will speak to his generations. You will talk about who are his forefathers. That is the mark of the Omoluabi. And then the person must earn the tag of the Omoluabi. He must act with integrity. He must deal equitably with other people. He must be fair in his dealings with people. In fact, the entire ethos of Omoluabi, you can find it in the book of Amos in the Bible. That is how deep the concept is. To now appropriate Omoluabi to everybody who answers the name of a Yoruba person, even when the person has not acted in a manner that is suggestive of the person having the quality that will make the person answer to the name of Omoluabi. I reject that in its entirety. I am an Omoluabi. I'm a Yoruba man. And I have not forged my certificates. And so please, it is not a Nigerian thing, and it is certainly not a Yoruba thing, and it is not an Omoluabi thing to do that.
All right. The question then goes to Mr. Hassan. In the event, of course, it's not proven. Until the matter is concluded, we cannot make assumptions. But in the event, because we hear in other parts of the world when a public officer is saying, he wouldn't even wait for a ruling by the courts, or honorable thing is to resign. What do you think?
Well, from the content, I still want to inform that except it's explicitly spelled out by CSU is an institution. It's not just like the way we mobbed our institution here in Nigeria by campaign of calumny or by attacks. But as an institution, but the fact that they reckoned with Asiwaju as a graduate, I still maintain that ground. Nothing can outweigh that, because that was just the fact. There are other lies Atiku brought before the whole world. If you are telling too many lies, it will be quite unfortunate. I'm coming. Just as he never answered your question, because you asked him a very straightforward question and he deviated and went on a voyage on his own self-interest. But for me, Asiwaju, just like our organization, recently we hold the symbolism of Omoluabi. There are a lot of characters that hold that value: hard work, vision, courage, integrity. These are semblance that we hold in high esteem until it's proven otherwise. we will take the right decision to rethink and review our decision. But as at now, and that is the system of Yoruba people. Recently, we just took a decision on another statement for just violating a moral decadence of the Yoruba people, because he violated just for Obasanjo to apologize. We sanction him. It doesn't matter whose us is God. But for the fact that social justice must be maintained, rule of law must be maintained, you cannot come on a live program imputing. You don't impute. You even raise it as an allegation until it's proven. He's a lawyer, and I'm also a lawyer. You don't come to impute a crime that have not yet been investigated and properly alleged. For the fact that the school had just come out, so this is one of our person. We had all the qualification. The earlier issue was that it was parading a female, it was parading this, it was parading every other, but yet at various points in time, the hatred, some of these are people, for the fact that we're all Yoruba doesn't mean we must love our own. I'm not a sentimental and ethnic person. I'm the Secretary General of all ethnic nationalities in Nigeria. I hold the Igbo in high esteem, the Hausas in high esteem. So it's not about a Yoruba thing. We are talking about national interest.
Absolutely. So to the question.
And if he does, I've already answered your question.
I asked that in the event,
yes.
and it could be anybody. So maybe
yes.
Because of the personality, in the event that it's proven, yeah. Would you suggest or recommend that the person in question should resign?
No, if he's proven guilty, the Senate needs to impeach him. It doesn't need to still hold on when they do more, because that is the law. When we are talking about law, we tend to be more emotional in this part of the world. If you are not reading in between the lines, the more that we are hypnotized and overzealous about political intrigues that battled us in the 2023 general elections. We all know how we had till now. If you go on social media, there are a lot of issues there.
Yes.
But in view of the fact that Asiwaju today is still an Omoluabi par excellence, except Mr. Dele Farotimi has personal hatred and issue. If you don't have any, you don't begin to chastise a man for just the fact that he's a former governor of Lagos State. Everybody has their own interest. But for the fact that you've aided a political, you aided your own political candidate. Let's give him a breathing space to serve the people, which he has started well. Thank you.
Let's deal with facts. Not
yes,
sentiments.
definitely.
Not sentiments. I want to deal with facts. So, have you taken our time to read the raw copy? Over 200 pages of deposition, because I want to interrogate the raw copy.
Definitely.
Have you read everything?
Yes, I've read it.
You've read everything. Are you sure?
Definitely.
Okay, good. So let me take you first to the part where the school talked about the fact that they didn't give the certificate that he submitted to INEC. You're a lawyer by training. There's something called the Evidence Act. Before you put forward a document that can be submitted under oath, it has to be issued by the authority issuing body.
Yes.
Mr. Tinubu submitted a document that in this deposition, CSU said they did not issue. Number one, what's that your interpretation of that? Secondly, if you submit a document, you claimed an authority issued and the authority claimed they didn't issue it. What's your interpretation of that? Secondly, Mr. Farotimi, I want to go straight to the facts. They talked about the case of Mr. Orr in the deposition, and I'm sure have you read the deposition fully?
I won't lie to you that I have. Unlike Mr. Azan, I haven't read everything.
Okay, they talk about a certain Mr. Orr, that after they dealt with the certification process that left CSU, and they didn't know the circumstances at which they left CSU. They also confirmed that they gave Mr. Enarueba document, because some people have been lying that Mr. Enarueba didn't subpoena CSU. They confirmed that they gave him document. They even further revealed that the normal template that the president graduated from CSU was written many years ago, and they just used it to respond to email of people that make inquiries. They also further talked about the fact that they have no authentication as regards that Southwestern College. So the CSU themselves confirmed that they don't have any means to be able to authenticate if the records any student submitted to them is valid or not. Because I've read in details this, so that's why I'm asking you if you've read properly because I want to deal with facts. So these are some of the facts on ground. Number one, I'd like to ask you, if, as a lawyer, an issuing body that you claim gave you a document said they did not give it to you, and you submitted that document under oath, what does that mean?
In the circumstance of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, stricto sensu, there was a missing, he requested for a reissuance of a certificate. And this is the diploma certificate we are talking about. And there are procedures in American system of education whereby documents, not all documents, especially certificates, they outsource printing of certificates in their own system. Their system is not like the way we run our own educational system, primary, secondary. So far, you have all the prerequisites. And from their own records, it's just like their records standing against them now. You cannot appropriate and reprobate. The finality, which I'm still telling you, is the fact that from the article's point of view, they need to still subject that to a thorough investigation. And that is where we want to maintain.
Sorry, can I come in? Can I come in?
Listen.
It's obvious, sir.
No.
You didn't read the document. Hang on a minute. Because it's obvious you didn't read the document.
No. You have just asked me a question.
No, let me finish.
That's the same way
let me finish.
You always preempt
the
person who's answering you.
My brother,
we come
a long way. And your emotional blackmail cannot work with me. You achieve a blackmail.
No, you have come
So let me please.
Can you retrieve that?
Let me speak.
Statement?
Your emotional blackmail cannot work
that
with me.
Statement.
Secondly, you have not read the document.
I will not continue to answer your question.
You have not read the document because if you have read the document,
stop to answer your question.
If you have read the document,
Mr. Rufai,
if you have
please go back and retrieve that statement, or else let me answer.
I will not retrieve the statement because you've constantly emotionally blackmailed. So moving on.
No.
Okay,
please direct your question somewhere.
Let me make my points. If you have read the document, it shows that CSU actually sent another document that was made for Tinubu to Nahoro Eba. And there was discrepancy. That's why CSU said they did not print out that document that particularly was sent to INEC. Mr. What's it called? I would like to come to you. Mr. Dele Farotimi. Please, can you comment on all the facts I have brought out?
See, facts don't matter in Nigeria any longer. That's just the truth. It's gotten to the point where alternative facts have taken over the space and truth itself have become completely subjective and transactional. The depositions are clear and they are not ambiguous. The person representing CSU was unequivocal in declaring that the certificate submitted to INEC by the man known as Bola Ahmed Tinubu does not emanate from them. That is a matter that should be conclusively dealt with and forgotten about. Whether the Nigerian courts will find that as sufficient basis to do the needful, that's another argument that we can have at another time. But that we're still arguing about what has been conclusively proven in the deposition speaks a lot to the kind of country that we have become. Now, when you now speak about a missing document, the person went to school, you now begin to dig to the substance of the issue. You now begin to have to answer the question. The document submitted to CSU itself showing that it was a female that had the qualification to enter the place, nobody is talking about that. If we are not going to be dealing with the substance and we are just dancing around the issue, we can't even agree on what is not or what should not be argued about that is already clear in the face of the deposition, that this document to Mark A that was given to INEC by Mr. Tinubu did not emanate from the body that was purportedly issuing the document. The body came out clearly. Now, whether Mr. Tinubu attended the university, whether he attended having the right qualifications, whether he lied about the schools he attended, whether Government College Lagos was found in 1970 or 1974, that's another story entirely. And the deeper you dig into this, the messier it becomes. And I actually think that we have a duty not to allow truth to become transactional and subjective. Facts on the ground are clear. The certificate submitted by Mr. Tinubu is a forgery. That is not my opinion. That is what the registrar of the school has declared on oath. So what our own courts would do with it is what they are prepping for with all these alternative narratives and facts that they are spewing. Oh, so I have a driver's license, but I forgot my driver's license, and I have now forged one so that I might prove that I actually had one issued to me. It's still a forgery.
Okay, 2 quick comments, and then I'll raise a question. 1, a lot of emotions have been invested in this, and depending on where people stand, they bring their emotions forward. But public opinion, as you have pointed out, is useful. However, only yesterday, the CJN, Justice Ariwola, was saying that, look, the new Federal High Court judges are not governed by public opinion. They are governed by the law. That is the main thing that lawyers are concerned with. And it was quoting, well, it wasn't quoting, it was more or less echoing Nikitobi DSC in Atiku Abubakar versus Musa Yaradua, where he said, look, lawyers, you know, they are not interested in public opinion. They are interested in what is provided before them. So we all should be guided, you know, in that regard. And incidentally, both of you are lawyers, but we are journalists. We are interested in public opinion. That's why we invited you. So there's a difference between journalism and law. However, my point is this, to both of you, and I don't know who will go first. There is a story in the papers today saying, oh, the Atiku camp is going to provide evidence to show that, look, there was forgery. And to that point about forgery, Westbeck did not use the word forgery. What he said is that their university doesn't reissue certificates. What they issue is transcript, and that certificates are issued by vendors. That's what he said in that deposition. The one that I read, the raw copy. We will still get, as at 6 p.m., the certified true copy was not available yesterday. So that's for clarification. But the court of people saying they are going to take evidence to the Supreme Court, I ask both of you, is the Supreme Court a court of evidence or a court of public policy? Can anybody still take fresh evidence to the Supreme Court after evidence had been pleaded in the lower court and after the defense had filed their own address and defense? So can the Supreme Court now take a fresh matter as evidence? Because we've been talking back and forth on that. Maybe Dele Farotimi will handle that. And for you, the specific question I want you to ask is that, you know what is causing all these problems?
Yes.
Is that people are saying the energy that the APC and President Tinubu, that they are putting into, they don't want this record to be released. If some people are saying it's because maybe there's something they are trying to hide. Now, otherwise, if there is no issue, you just say, okay, release the record now. What are they going to do with it? So what is all this thing about severe and irreparable damage? What damage?
Well, let me.
So maybe your lawyers are the ones who missed the boat.
No. Let me speak as a lawyer first. Yeah. This is an election petition matter, and within 21 days you are meant to present all your facts and figures. You cannot re-amend after 21 days. You have 180 days to present, and so far that you fail to plan up an issue, you cannot begin to blame everyone for your failure. That is what is happening to Atiku and Peter Obi now. And I will now come back to the effect that how we arrive at where we are is because we are not being truthful to ourselves. And just as you mentioned, you are a journalist, but your colleague here is very highly unprofessional.
No, please.
No, I'm coming.
Just address
I'm
the
coming.
question.
I'm not emotional against anybody. You are asking a question.
Blackmailer, continue.
You are asking a question.
Blackmailer,
on
you're my
the
friend.
premise of neutrality. You don't bring up your emotions into it. I've just provided you an answer.
Professional blackmailer.
Yeah, it's in records. This is an institution. You can write further requests to reaffirm forgery. But they have a process in America. The vendor, there is a vendor, you go to that vendor to reassert if that document actually, that vendor had the authority. By whose authority was the vendor acting? Was there an authorized legal authority to those vendors? Meaning there was a vendor, meaning there is a truth here. And in evidence, for the fact that these are privileged documents. In America, we don't run things like we have, for the fact that we have FOI in Nigeria. You just apply, you get your document. But in America, you sought the consent of the owner of that document for release. If he doesn't still give you his own document, no matter how, except he gives you...
Even here in Nigeria, you can't ask for my transcript.
Yeah.
You
So
cannot go to universities
except their substantial reason, criminal reason. And here we are not investigating either Ashwaju did not go to... They are proved, their allegation, all of them, including Dele Farotimi, is that, oh, this man never went to the school, he was parading, never to have graduated. Now you are seeing it, Mr. Rufai. I'm not putting it to you, just the way, it's not left to you.
No, you are the guest.
Respond.
You are the
No,
guest.
No, let him put it to me.
No, please.
No,
You
okay.
are the guest. Just address
No,
it.
to me,
No,
to me, I'm
please.
not too emotional.
No,
here.
please.
Fact might be very hard for all of us that Ashwaju is the president of this country. Let us accept that as a fact. Is there. Definitely the political interest can be on your side tomorrow. I, as a person, I believed in various of my interests. I walk in on the truth. And if I'm continuing to maintain my stand on some issues, but the fact that other people have their own candidate and all that, we maintain our endorsement of Ashwaju because we went through his record. This matter started with Fawemi. There was a matter of the ICPC. There are a lot of matters Ashwaju that have been determined by the court. And you cannot retroactivate an issue that has been determined by a law court. This man is a graduate. Going into looking out for every pulse on the body of a dead man, you are just disturbing yourself. So these are not issues we just have to trivialize. These are privileged documents. He said, oh, don't show my records to this extent. The school showed his gender by addressing him as Mr. Ashwaju. What could have been? Those are comprehensive. Just a primary six holder will understand. Mr. That is not a female. You don't go deeper just because you just want to call a dog a bad name and looking for every evidence around. That is deeply retrogressing and unfortunate. And to me, just as I still retreat, I'm not an emotional blackmailer. I'm only here to speak the truth. If Rufai loves it or not, we'll come back here to readdress other national issues. But as far as I believe, on his question, the document emanated from a vendor. Have you on your own emailed the vendor's institution? Did this document, the school just only provided on hold. If I say yes or no, that is the end. And they don't claim that it's a document.
I get your point.
And Ashwaju is not a forger. Please, I'm reiterating, Ashwaju is not a forger. He's a man of utmost integrity. He's a man that we found to be manly enough to manage the affairs of the country at this critical time, and he's doing the job. That's the only support. What I expect at this time is for us to create a constructive criticism. Let there be a shadow cabinet of opposition to know if it's really meeting up with the target. So for me, I'm not here to furthermore on these trivialities. Definitely, everybody's look at the way we are addressing each other over an issue that has been determined outside the country. They went all to shop for lies, and they still came back with nothing.
Okay. Dele Farotimi, can the Supreme Court take fresh evidence? Are there compelling, exceptional circumstances that would, dictate that? Do you think that forgery can be established at this stage, considering the fact that there are decided cases on forgery? The most celebrated one being the Eremenye case in Bayelsa.
Dr. Abati, when your legislators are corrupt, you should be worried. If your executive peopled by crooks, you should be afraid. But when the judiciary stops being court of law, the people should be alarmed. Nigerian courts over the past few years have shown very clearly that we have good reasons to be worried about the capacity to deliver justice or to give equity. However, I do know that within the inherent jurisdiction of that court it has the powers, if it so desires and if it finds the will, to hear evidence that will suggest that the person who is sat in the highest office of the land is a career criminal. That is entirely up to the Supreme Court. It is up to the court to decide whether it is capable of saving what we have described variously as a democracy. What I have said is very simple. No, I'm sorry, Dr. Abati. I am sorry, Dr. Abati. Please rein in Mr. Hassan. Rein him in. Rein him in. Rein him in. He had his say and I did not interrupt him.
You had your time.
He had his say and I did not interrupt him. Please rein him in. What I said is very clear. What I said is very clear.
Don't interrupt him. Please.
You are very biased.
Okay.
In your own opinion.
Okay,
you already made up your mind. And
okay, please.
As an unbiased arbiter, you are a judge.
Keep
the judge don't descend into arena. You
don't take over the show, Mr.
No, to me, on that, I believe that we just have to go on issues. Let us talk about law.
Please, I beg you.
It's the law that we are talking about. It's the lawyer. Addressing the judiciary. This is the issue the judges address there.
Okay, but
we lawyers cannot
continue
to desecrate the
judiciary. Allow him.
The judiciary are there to be there as unbiased arbiter. If you love to be part of the articular and media lawyer, go and join them.
We are not in a
go and
position.
accuse of fight before the court. You don't come to the media and presume judgment. And I won't accept it. I won't accept it.
You've taken over the show.
No, we are here to
inform the public.
Not you, but the public.
Hold on. We are not in a position to charge you for contempt, but this is becoming contemptuous.
My words are not ambiguous.
Mr. Farotimi,
I was speaking with you specifically, Dr. Abati, over a year ago. I was away in America when you asked me specifically about the appointment of the current CJ, and he was appointed in an acting capacity at the time. And my opinion are on paper. They are clear, they are not ambiguous. I have zero trust in the capacity of the CJN to deliver justice. That is not political. That is something I had said long before there was a Peter Obi. So there is nothing political about that. There is nothing personal about that. This is all about Nigeria. It is about the country we want to leave behind for posterity, for our children. What values are we building that country with? Is it a country where nothing matters any longer once the person can snatch it, grab it? If you speak against that, you must hate the person. Is that the kind of country we have become? It is up to the judiciary to decide whether he wishes to do justice or whether he wants to continue wearing blinkers and pretending that it is a court of law when justice is vacant completely in his court. This is not about legalese. It is about building a society based on morality, equity, justice, and even law. If we were now faced with a situation where in our courts, the law does not matter anymore. You have a Lawan in the Senate, even you have an Akpabio, and then you are asking me if I have confidence in the capacity of that judiciary to do justice. I am telling you straight up, no. If anybody does not like that, it is up to them. The point I'm raising is when you have this much imputation of criminality, whether it is proven or not is another ball game entirely. It is not even seemly. Already all over the world, our reputations are in tatters simply because of the person who sits in the highest office in our land. And then we are being told it is wrong to ask questions. We must hate him if we are asking questions. I hate nobody. I hate their deeds.
All right. Okay, I mean, very heavy things you said here. And as you've mentioned, it's just important to clarify that they're your personal opinion in your personal capacity in terms of your evaluation of the judiciary and the capacity of the CJN to deliver equity and justice.
Yes.
Purely personal. So
purely
that's your
personal.
View. All right.
And
just
the evidences are in the public space.
All right. To establish that, I'd like to then to reply to that, Mr. Hassan. What's your assessment of the judiciary? And again, just responding to Dr. Abati's question around evidence being admitted to the Supreme Court at this level, from a lawyer's perspective yourself. What's your take on this?
Well, admission of evidence are allowed at every stages of every matter, but you cannot bring in fresh matter. That is the case here. On the effect of article is a dead on arrival case have been issued, and that of Peter Obi. And let me now go into the of the question of how best do we rate our judiciary. It's quite unfortunate in this part of the world. When you go to court and you win a case, you go to church and run your Thanksgiving. But the day you lose the case, then you begin to cast aspersion. Our judiciary, which I'm also part of, if you cast aspersion, definitely you are part of that process. But I still want to reiterate, as far as the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal is concerned, the judges are unbiased. And for every lawyer, the jurisprudential judgment of that ruling is a book for another day for lawyers to learn, even for lawyers to know how to prepare election petition matters. You don't just presume the fact that you hate the face of the judges or you tag them on all the social media, definitely because they now deliver judgment against you, definitely they are bad. No. Mr. Abati has admitted, everybody know, our judges are there. You don't preempt them. And that's why I wouldn't want to prejudice the Supreme Court. But I know Atiku and Obi are just on their self-melancholic voyage to just satisfy their followers, the mob attacks. And that's what we are witnessing. Everywhere you go, you see them. But for me, the judiciary is full of integrity, and I believe, and I still reiterate, however the Supreme Court rules, I'm not preempting that they must rule in favor of Asiwaju. If the Supreme Court rules tomorrow, Asiwaju needs to take his leave and obey the rule of law. He has nothing. And I know the man I know, while he was a former governor of Lagos State, he went through the court. He's a man of court. Okay. You might hate him for his guts, but he's a man of due process, and he's very calculative in ensuring to get his ass together. Not a man that does things hurriedly just to get fire brigade solution.
So a couple of questions. My very dear friend,
my good friend too.
Mr. Hassan.
We have let the whole world know that we resolve behind the camera.
I've got nothing against
let's now go.
But the truth is, I'm a man of fact, and I stay
same here.
And you know, when you are interrogating based on fact and people call you unprofessional, it's a compliment actually, because you're doing your work. So thank you for complimenting me. Let me go straight to it. So this was the fact I was interrogating you on. And I'm just a person of facts, and I want the facts to come out.
Okay.
I get your point that a third party, can print a document and everything. But that's why I specifically asked you that did you read the deposition in its entirety? Because in the deposition in its entirety, there were a lot of discrepancies. When Enahoro Eba subpoenaed the school, they gave him one certificate, which was different from what President Tinubu submitted.
Okay.
So the one certificate that they gave Enahoro Eba was different.
Yes.
And that's the bone of contention. That's why I kept on telling you that. That's why I kept on telling you that. No, hang on a minute. Okay. That's why I kept on telling you that you might not have had the full facts. So it's not that I have anything against you. I've got nothing against you. I don't have the capacity to hit. Hang on a minute. Okay. You won't let me finish. So that was the variation in the document. Okay. And that's why I asked you hitherto that if an issuing body does not authenticate something that was claimed to have been issued by an issuing body, then what is the case? Let me even stretch your argument and make your argument for you, because I love arguments. So if you say that a third party issued it, was there an authentication by the school recognizing the fact that the third party issued in its deposition? Wasn't that supposed to be submitted to INEC, part of the oath? Secondly, the Southwestern College documents. The school themselves came out to say that they have no verification mechanism on these documents to then submit to get into their own school.
Yes,
which is suspect, because that means I can submit a name and call myself Wendy Smollen, and the school will accept it without verifying it, which is also an albatross on the school itself. They also talked about, and these were the things that are in the documents, they also talk about the case of Mr. Orr that left the school after there was a certification that was initially delivered to Mr. Wole Afolabi, which is cancelled.
Okay,
so these are the issues. Let me also set a timeline for Mr. Farotimi. Mr. Farotimi, there's this big bone of contention, and this is the argument some people are making, that all that matters is the fact that the school, and in the deposition when Mr. Henderson was interviewing the witness, the school said, yes, the candidate graduated. So people are making the argument that Is that not enough? Once they say it graduated, but they said they cannot authenticate the documents. Because that has been a bone of contention, and I want you to be able to clarify first. Answer the question, yeah.
Well, let me draw you to our own local system. I attended LASU. So many years back, there was a printed certificate with touch of picture on it. But now you go to...
What year was that?
That's 2010, 2011.
That was
But I knew when... but I'm aware when you are in English. But I'm coming. I knew Dr. Bat very well as a lecturer. But at the same time, these are facts that are laid before all of us. And facts don't lie. It's just from the angle that you want to pick it up as an African man mentality that, the king does no wrong, or let me just make sure that this man must be nailed, either is saint or not. What you asked is the fact that by whose authority, that's what we call it in law. Who's the authority? Who authorized the issuance? Was there a further request? It would be an omission on the part of the institution to have put up maybe vaguely decision not extracted or maybe too assertive. But in their report, if I just say, okay, this document is not from me, that doesn't mean that my the agent who had the authority ab initio is not authorized to issue the document on my behalf. It's only for you to go through that agent to reaffirm. And what Ashwaju is having today, which I want you to write, do your own.
The school had another. See,
that's
what I'm asking. Did you read? The school had another certificate. The school admitted to Enauro Eba.
No, that's what I'm saying. That they even admitted that they have different characters that they use in issuing their certificate. So the people that did.
I think you should read the deposition.
I have three vendors now. Do you expect every vendor, somebody in one trade, to maintain the same logo and design? Whereby every trade has their own logos, has their own trademarks. If I'm using my own trademark to issue maybe I'm using italic sign.
But Mr. Big's logo is uniform everywhere.
No,
despite franchising.
You're having the African mentality of Nigeria. I'm talking about America here. No.
But Mr. Big's logo is the same everywhere.
We are talking about a third party who has the authorized right to
but the logo, but there's a standard.
Can we stay on course?
Go to that
this program,
party.
no more interruptions today, please. Let's stay on course.
Definitely.
Make your point.
Okay, so the fact I'm asking you.
So there is none.
No, the fact I'm asking you is this. That's why I said, please, it's best you read it because it's obvious you've not read it. And this is not to impugn on anything you said.
No.
See, the school in that deposition said they have another one that they gave Enahoro Eba. But the one Tinubu gave was different. They don't know how it came about. So the school can actually have a replacement and reissue. It was that one they gave Enahoro Eba. It's there in the document.
The same school that gave Enahoro Eba still has authorized agent that is still
so why
his right to.
So why
didn't
they give Tinubu and they gave Enahoro Eba?
That's the choice of Ashwaju.
No, I'm just asking, please, just a clear question. Why didn't they give Tinubu, but they could give Enahoro Eba? Pure and simple.
Tinubu only went to the third party to request.
Okay,
That's
Mr.
right.
Dele Farotimi, Mr. Dele
That's right. That is under his own right.
Mr. Dele Farotimi, I'm sure you want to answer the questions here.
I assure you that Mr. Azad is a very intelligent man. But when you find a very intelligent man struggling with something as basic as this, you will know that something else is there. So let me just say this. The candidate graduated. That was what the school said. But the school also said very clearly and unambiguously that it knew nothing about the document termed a certificate held by Mr. Tinubu. The only document purporting to be a certificate submitted to INEC by Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu by the declaration of the body that was meant to have issued it is fake, is a forgery. All these arguments that we are having is because, one, the Nigerian press, I'm sorry, Rufai, I'm sorry, Ayo and Doc, we sometimes deliberately ignore the truth that is in front of us and we go on fishing expeditions. The document from Southwestern College shows a social security number that goes back to a female. There are so many lies on getting these things that we are not asking questions related to that because it's already sufficient to focus on the fact that the document submitted is fake. Is that simple. Whether Mr. Enauru Eba or Mr. whoever, the fact is on record.
But Mr. Farotimi, the school said he graduated.
You know, the school said he graduated. I'm not arguing that with you. Why? That is already on record. It's not something to be argued about. But the school also said the certificate the man submitted is a forgery. That is what the school said. What did they say it is?
No, the school did not say it's a forgery.
So what did they say it is?
All the school said is that it is not what they gave, that they don't know about.
Exactly. So if the issuing authority says that this is not from me, why are we afraid to call it what it is? It's a forgery.
Okay, Farotimi, let me come back to you. Number one, I think this program, we disassociate ourselves with the use of the word career criminal.
Thank you.
Because that's libelous per se. It's defamatory.
I hope that I will be sued for libel.
No, just
no,
interesting to have that. Just wait. No, please.
Allow me. You're taking the show away from me.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
So
that's So
that is my summation of the facts as I see them, and anyone who is displeased with them is free to issue writs.
Second, on the issue of these election matters, look, it's also not fair to malign the reputation of the CJN. You may say you have said it before, you are repeating it again, that under this CJN, you don't expect the courts to do well.
Look,
that's second point. So again, it's not our statement.
It is my statement,
yes,
and I stand by it.
You may have made it on our platform.
I've made it, and I say it, and I stand by it, and I have evidence of what I said.
Well, maybe the CGN himself may take up the matter with you. Okay. Then the third point is that when I raise the question whether evidence can be provided piecemeal, I thought both of you as lawyers are going to address that, because that's one issue that has been coming up. Okay, maybe in criminal matters, if that evidence was not available initially, was not in existence, and is material to the delivery of justice. But this is at best a civil matter, right? So that was why I was asking, can the Supreme Court take fresh evidence in this kind of situation? And in any case, both of you must also know that electoral jurisprudence is different from the regular process in court. So I wanted both of you to just, educate us about, the electoral jurisprudence that we're dealing with here, rather than, emotional exchanges, so that the public can be better educated.
I am not being emotional. I have answered the questions I was asked. I have given my opinion as I believe them to be legally correct. They might be strong, but they are based in truth. Whoever is unhappy with them should feel free to issue writs. They are that simple.
Okay, to both of you, what lessons, as at this stage, without dictating to the Supreme Court that will be properly seized of the matter, what lessons do you think all of us as Nigerians can learn at this point? Let me start with you again, Farotimi.
Just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. No matter how long you tell a lie, eventually you get found out. Just tell the truth. That is all. Just tell the truth.
Yes, any lessons?
Just let me retrace the word of Mr. Clark, SAN. He said, elections are just the most disturbing thing in Nigeria that always throw us apart year in, year out of election. And you can always come back every 4 years to agitate. But be that as it may, for we lawyers, very important, we don't over-sensationalize issues. It prejudices the court itself. And that really affected the opinion of ordinary citizens outside there. You allow the court to go through the order. Then when you are coming for a matter, you must be properly fed with your facts and figures. You don't window shop for evidence when you're already sitting to ensure that that matter to be determined on the premise of justice. And we don't need to begin to coerce. We need our country. That is the best we can bequeath to our generation yet unborn. I still reiterate my confidence that however the judiciary delivers their judgment, let every fact in issue be determined, even if, because of the time lag, that they might not be able to go into details of some of all these allege all these allegations in court because they are not substantive enough to say, okay, this man is guilty. Nobody has pronounced him guilty. He's not a criminal. And whatever persuasive opinion they might be holding, it doesn't change the law. The law is that Ashwaju presented a document. His lawyers are well informed. They presented their fact and submit everything before the court. And they allow the court to determine it on its merits. But we just have to learn to guide ourselves, not learn to be too emotional. As a lawyer, we need to be tactical about issues. It doesn't mean because Ashwaju is the APC president, I must throw in all my heart. People knows my fightings. Even on some other fundamental issues, I engage the government constructively. I've issued petitions on some officials within the cabinet, within some officials of government. Presently, we are fighting a matter on NNPC. Does that mean because Ashwaju is there as president, I must keep quiet? No. Let us engage the government. This is our only country. And the media needs to play a role. Please, maybe I must commend your organization with National Orientation Agency.
You want to give us a lecture?
Yes.
On how to do our work.
Like he says, we are all professional. I'm all professional. Needs a lot of education. The citizens are mobbed into believing everything that is thrown at them. And I believe we are beginning to see reasons why our country should not be taken over by coup, has been advocated by the same set of people. Why we must continue to embrace rule of law and not rule of force. And let us begin to maintain.
We need to be equal on time. I think you had more time.
I'm sure your points and your closing statements for both Mr. Dele Farotimi and Mr. Dr. Hassan have been clearly stated. We thank you for your time this morning on the morning show, and hopefully we get to have you back on the show in a short while.